Hello, as everyone knows that this year is a very crazy year for all of us, and as much as we enjoy staying at home for some of us, there's also a lot of challenges that's happening, and especially in the Northeast, and I'm sure it is also in the rest of the country. We have a lot of returnees from the metro cities where they have gone to work, and migrant workers, they have come back home. We have welcomed them and we have quarantined them, set up quarantine centers, and everyone, the whole community was encouraged to contribute, to welcome them warmly, and also to take care of their needs. So most of us have participated in one way or the other, financially or in some good actions. However, in spite of the very warm welcome, there has been a lot of stigma that is happening among our people, and especially with those friends who were tested positive. A lot of stigma because we don't even understand what it is, so we are terrified. There is so much of fear and anxiety among the people, and we have stigmatized our friends who are going through the treatment themselves. You know, when one is sick, when one is found positive, instead of our love and care and comfort for them, we stigmatize them, and then we cast them out of our society and we call them names, and that's such a harsh reality to live in. And I know that in the beginning of this treatment of COVID-19, we have seen what all crazy things that even our nation had to go through, where we have not given a burial place, where people who came to bury the dead have been stoned, and all kinds of things that has happened in our nation. So things have not changed so much. And I'm reminded today of a similar situation in the Bible. There were so many people who were stigmatized for their disease, like the lepers, like those who were involved in some sinful activities. And one of them today that I would like to highlight is a woman suffering with bleeding issue, a blood issue for 12 long years. The Bible says in Mark chapter 5 verse 24 to 34 that this woman had been suffering with blood issue for 12 years, which means she was bleeding for 12 long years every day. She went from one doctor to another doctor looking for the best treatment, and whatever money that she had spent everything. And she was at her dead end. She was at the end of the rope. She didn't know what to do, but she heard about this man, the Son of God, Jesus, who was going around healing diseases, who was going around without condemning people for their sin, without judgment for them, but with love, with grace, with compassion, with healing, with miracles. When she heard about this man, she knew that this disease that she had, everybody knew, and then she was rejected. She was the outcast of the society, and I believe there was no proper hygiene even during those days, and she must have been stinking, and she must have been, the most rejected. She looked dirty, ugly, thin, pale, whatever. I can only imagine she must just be a bone with skin on covering the bones. This woman, she took up the courage. And she went during a time when Jesus and his disciples, they were in the crowd, and while something that very important had happened, Jairus, one of the synagogue rulers, had come to Jesus and said, "Teacher, Lord, please come over because my daughter is almost dying." Jesus and his disciples were just ready to go to this very important man's invitation to heal his daughter. And when they were just about to go, this woman, who was so sickly, who hardly had any strength, she thought in her heart, she said, "If I can only touch the hem of Jesus, I will be healed." She took the opportunity. Look at her courage. She took the chance. She took the opportunity. She rushed in the midst of this crowd and she touched the hem of Jesus' garment. As soon as she touched the hem of Jesus' garment, the power flowed out of Jesus. Immediately she was healed. The blood stopped flowing. And Jesus looked around. He stopped. In the midst of that busy crowd, everybody pushing and pulling on him, and he said, "Who touched me?" His disciples said, "Are Jesus, how can you say who touched me? They call, how many people are here? So many people. Everybody is pushing and pulling. Everybody want to touch you. Everybody want to get a little touch on you. And how can you say that somebody touched me?" Well, Jesus knew the intention of the touch. There was everybody just trying to touch him and just trying to feel him and experience him, and they were all pushing and pulling and accidental touch and all of that. But he knew that there was one intentional touch, one touch of faith, one touch of a woman who was in despair, who was hopeless, who was going through rejection in life. There was one special touch. He would not move until that person surrenders and says, "I touched you." He kept on looking in the crowd and he said, "Who touched me?" The woman, knowing that there is no way to hide her identity. Now this teacher, this Lord, is very serious about the matter. She came out of the crowd and said, "Lord, I touched you." She explained her situation with full of fear, I believe, because in the Old Testament law, she's not supposed to touch a man. She's an unclean woman. A woman, even when she had her monthly period, she's not supposed to touch a man. She's supposed to be unclean during that time. And this woman, she had this continuous flow of blood for the last 12 years. She took the courage. She dared to touch the prophet. What could be her consequence? But Jesus' search for this woman was not to condemn her, was not to judge her, but was to recommend her and honor her in the crowd. And she calls out to this woman and said, "Woman, your faith has healed you. Your faith has healed you." Which means she announced to the whole community that this woman is not to be stigmatized anymore because she has been healed from the flow of blood. She is no more bleeding. She is healed. She was honored for her faith. For her courage, she was honored. And the whole community would now begin to respect her. Now the whole community would remove the stigma that was attached to this woman. Well, my dear friends, I don't know who you are, what kind of situation you are in. You may have been stigmatized for the disease, or you may be a part of the family of somebody who has been tested positive, or you may be a friend of a positive person, and you know that stigmatization, that rejection that person has gone through, or you yourself may have been stigmatized, and you know what it feels like. But I want to tell you, my dear friends, that Jesus always had hope for the rejected. Jesus always had chance for the most rejected ones. There was no stigmatization. There's no judgment. There is no condemnation in Jesus. We can always come to Jesus. Come to Jesus for your healing. Come to Jesus when all your hope is lost, because there is hope in Jesus. Come to Jesus when you have lost everything. Maybe you have lost your money, when you have lost your business, you've lost your health. you've lost your relationship, when you are left with nothing, come to Jesus. He will give you hope. He will give you healing. He will give you honor. He will give you encouragement. He will give you a new challenge. He will give you respect. Only in Jesus there is a new beginning. Only in Jesus there is hope. So my dear friends, today I would like to encourage you, whatever situation, whatever trauma that you may have gone through, like this woman, there is hope in Jesus. You can start all over again. May God bless each one of us, all of us, those who are listening, and all those of us who are going through difficulties in life, going through loneliness, going through broken relationships, going through stigmatization, going through sickness and diseases. There is a hope in Jesus. Call out to Jesus. He is your best friend. Amen.